So you're thinking of moving to Kitchener, Ontario, and not sure about the good and the bad, the pros and the cons of living in Kitchener, Ontario? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this particular video. I do get asked oftentimes from clients whether it is Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, which town is right for them. So I thought this might be a good idea to give you a good understanding of the pros and the cons of living in Kitchener, Ontario. And we're going to get after it right now. If this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything about living, eating, sleeping, playing, working in Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo and the surrounding towns, then subscribe below and tap on bell for notification so you can be the first to know about the current market in Kitchener and the surrounding towns. I'm Dharmik Dixit. I'm a local real estate agent here in Kitchener, Ontario, serving Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo and the surrounding towns. I do get calls, texts, emails from people just like you looking for help in making their move to Kitchener and the surrounding towns, and I absolutely love it. So whether you're thinking of moving in 9 days or 90 days, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, schedule a Zoom call. All the information is in the description below so I can help you make a smooth move to Kitchener and the surrounding towns. So this one is particularly important and you do want to pay attention to this, if you are not a winter person. Waterloo region does actually fall under the Snowbelt, which are very few parts of Ontario that do fall under that Snowbelt, and Kitchener is, one of them. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on whether you are a winter person or not. But that's just something for you to consider. I mean, we do get a fair amount of, fair share of snowfall during the winter season. I mean, there are times, I have friends and family who still live in parts of Greater Toronto area and the Toronto downtown as well. I do sometimes talk to them and they're like, hey, it's nice and dry out here, and while I'm here shoveling my snow. So that's just one thing for you to keep in mind, that also to consider the fact that Kitchener and the Waterloo region in general is not actually surrounded by the lake waters, which actually helps sometimes moderate the temperatures. So we do get pretty chilly winds, and winters can be a little bit chillier than other parts of Ontario, especially if you're moving from Greater Toronto area or somewhere like Burlington, Oakville and parts like that, which are surrounded by the lake waters. That's something for you to keep in mind. I mean, on the other hand, if you are a winter person, well, it can be better for you. I mean, it can get better. Like, you will get a decent amount of snowfall for sure. And you will be able to enjoy the season for sure. That actually moves me to my next con, which is the fact that Kitchener is not directly connected to any lake waters. So it does not have connectivity to any Lake Ontario or Lake Erie. I understand that parts of GTA, Greater Toronto area, as well as the places like Oakville, Hamilton, Burlington, parts of those towns are also connected to the lake waters. So if you are a person who rather want to be as close to the lake as possible, you walk by the lake. I know some people in Oakville, like my friends and family, who live very close to the lake, and they won't move away from that lake water. So I mean, if you are that person, then keep in mind, like, Kitchener is not directly connected to any of the major lakes. Having said that, I mean, the closest lake would be the Lake Ontario for us here in Kitchener. You can always drive down on the weekend, and head to Burlington or Oakville, which is about an hour, I would say. So you can pretty much do that as well. But that's just one thing for you to keep in mind. You will get water, but not the lake water. Now, moving on to the next con. This is particularly important for young people who are into the nightlife. You can probably figure out where I'm heading with this. Is the fact that Kitchener is not very well known for its nightlife. Actually, we do have a few pubs, great dining restaurants, at the same time some clubbing options as well. I mean, you can always head down to Waterloo, which has some good clubs as well. But having said that, I mean, if you are, a pro, nightlife person, it's nothing compared to the Toronto downtown area. or any of the major city downtown nightlife that you might have experienced in the past. So another thing that you have to keep in mind, if you have young families, and there are some great pros, but I mean, if you're a hardcore nightlife person and you're out every Friday and Saturday night, Kitchener may not be the best option for you. Or if you do move, you may have to settle on that part. You always have that option. For Kitchener is the fact that it's not directly connected to Highway 401. So unlike Cambridge, which is directly connected to 401, depending on what part of Cambridge you live in. I mean, Town Line is directly connected to 401. Hespeler in Cambridge is also have direct connectivity to 401. Kitchener, on the other hand, is connected through Highway 8. So for the most part, you will actually have to commute to 401 and then get onto the Highway 8 to get to Kitchener. This is particularly important to consider if you have friends or family that you do visit often, or let's say if you're commuting to work, commuting for work to parts of Greater Toronto area. That's just one thing for you to consider, that it may entail additional 15 to 20 minutes of commute on the top of your commute on Highway 401. And one thing I wanted to note is that Highway 8 does get pretty packed actually during the peak hours. So, morning and evening, there are times when you're trying to get onto the Highway 8, there's a small ramp. It does get pretty backed up. So, which actually takes me to, one of the pros of living in Kitchener is the fact that, it is centrally located. So if you see Kitchener in the map, it's right in between, in the Waterloo region. It's right in between Cambridge and Waterloo. So, which if you're working and commuting locally is an advantage. I mean, if you live in Cambridge and commuting to Waterloo, it can sometimes be upwards of 30 minutes depending on what part of Cambridge you are. However, if you live in Kitchener, either Cambridge or Waterloo or even Guelph at some point up to a certain extent won't be too bad of a commute for you. So you literally have 4 different towns to find work, and that does give you more options without having to do a longer commute traveling to Greater Toronto area. There's a lot of new construction that happened, and still happening at the moment in the last few years. Depending on what you're looking for, you will have a decent, amount of new build condos. At the same time, town, semis, detached. They are popping up in different neighborhoods. There are actually, some pretty brand new communities that developed over the past, 10 years or so. To name a few, Dune South is there, Huron Park is there. At the same time, you have some mature neighborhoods Kettle Valley. At the same time, downtown Kitchener. Stanley Park is pretty mature as well. You will find a lot of older bungalows, which are decent sized lots. And at the same time, if you head down to more further inwards, you will see condominium buildings popping up. So, depending on what you're looking for, you will find a combination of both new and old constructions. Some people like newer construction, but the smaller lots are okay for them, but they want a brand new home. Then Kitchener has that for you. Unlike that, I mean, Cambridge does have a little bit of new constructions popping up now, but Kitchener will definitely offer you more options if you are looking into the new builds particularly, and you're sure that, okay, you know what, I don't want to get anything older than 10 years. Well, then I can tell you Kitchener has a lot more options for you compared to Cambridge and Waterloo. Which moves me to my next pro, which is Kitchener does have plenty of recreation. I mean, depending on what you're planning to do, or what is a thing for you when it comes to recreation, Kitchener does have plenty to offer. So, if you have young kids, there is a Binghamton's amusement center, which has, a lot of activities. In summer, they have water park. There's a bowling alley. There's, in fact, in Christmas times, there's a huge light show that's happening. So, and it also has a big stage and events happening all the time. So, it's a great place for young kids for sure. There is a place called Fun Villa as well, which is another great place for kids. It's an indoor playground setup with an arcade on the side as well. So, for young kids that is there, you have some great restaurants as well. I mean, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge is also not just some iconic franchise restaurants, but also like some great local restaurants depending on what cuisine you like. There are plenty of diverse options to eat in Kitchener. At the same time, don't forget, although we don't have a Lake Ontario, we do have a Grand River, which connects Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and even further. So, if you are into hiking, biking, fishing, on those outdoor recreation activities, well, guess what? Like Grand River does have pretty good trails. It does have connectivity to some, conservation areas as well as for fishing and all, parts of Kitchener does have designated fishing areas for you as well. So, some pretty good recreation options for everyone in all ages. So that's one thing I wanted to, make sure that you're aware of. Not just the nightlife that I just talked about. Yes, it does lack that, but on the other side, there are plenty of other things for everyone to do. So moving on to another pro is the fact that, Kitchener is home to some great schools. It does have a good school district. At the same time, we have for higher secondary education, we have Conestoga College. The major campus is located in Kitchener. At the same time, if you have you have University of Waterloo, you have Laurier University. Both of them are pretty well known for their own specific programs. So we do have a good ecosystem of great schools and colleges, and obviously part of Kitchener being part of the Waterloo region, we do have great ecosystem of some great universities which are well known for some of their programs as well. So that's just one thing to consider, especially if you have young families, or let's say kids who are soon gonna move out to higher secondary education. They may not have to move away from you. They might be able to stay with you and still finish their college, university, whatever that may be. So that's just one thing to consider. Moving on to my final pro is the fact that Kitchener does have a diverse work economy. So if you are planning to move or settle here from another part of Ontario and find work somewhere here locally, guess what? Like Kitchener does have pretty diverse options, and the economy itself is very well diverse. There used to be a time back in days when when and Waterloo region was predominantly mostly manufacturing. That has, particularly for Kitchener, that has changed quite a bit in the last decade or so, where there is a great ecosystem of IT startups. It's being part of the Waterloo region itself has its own advantage for Kitchener when it comes to work economy. You do have a great service industry. Plenty of manufacturing industries do still exist and thrive as well. And at the same time, there are some great startups here in Kitchener. I mean, I think the Lang Tannery Hall is home to which used to be an older historic building closer to downtown Kitchener, is now home to some great startups. I mean, we have our Google headquarters as well in Kitchener. We have D2L, Community Tech. So those are some great work options. But again, depending on your field, what I mean to say is you will have a pretty diverse economy. It's not like it's centered around one particular area, such as manufacturing or service. You do have a fair share of everything here. So there are chances that you will be able to find something here locally, depending on your field of work. So that pretty much wraps up this particular video about the pros and cons of living in Kitchener, Ontario. I hope you did get some value and some understanding about the good and the bad side of living in Kitchener. But at the end of the day, I mean, it has to fit your particular lifestyle for you and your family, and that should determine whether it is a fit for you. If you did get some value out of this video, do consider subscribing and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to learn about the current market in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and the surrounding towns. Whether you're thinking of moving in 9 days or 90 days, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, even schedule a Zoom call. All the information is in the description below, so I can help you make a smooth move to Kitchener and surrounding towns. Until then, I hope to show you around town.